So welcome back to another episode of Turf to the Terraces podcast. As you can see, I'm joined by my host, Scott Goodwin, and also Phil Brown. How are you doing, guys? You all right?
Very good.
I'm fantastic. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm all right now, Brian. I mean, Phil, no problem whatsoever. Just Matt, are you recording this?
Yeah, it's all recording now. It's all recording.
That's
Just
good.
Lill and I was joke there. We've had about 20 minutes now trying to get Phil online with us. We expected this from Nobby, not from Phil. So thanks for joining us, Phil. It's nice to have you on board. For anybody who's not listened before, I just want to talk you through the context. The way this works is we try and separate up into three different sections. The first section being the first half, and we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly within the game. And we're going to try and take Phil's perception on that. Then we move into a half-time interval where I'll have a little bit of a question for Phil, maybe a little bit difficult for him. And then second half is going to be talking about his highlights and the lowlights of his career, which I can imagine is going to be a lot of, because we only know the good and the bad, don't we? So, Phil, tell us how it started. Obviously, did you grow up wanting to be a footballer?
Oh, that's a good question to start with. I had a background in the northeast of England, and strangely enough, I've just been last night. I went to a game at the Emirates, seen it. One of our great triumphs at Hull City. Yeah, and I went back there as a director's guest, and it was a lovely, fantastic night. But it was to go to see the team that I supported as a kid, which was Sunderland. Yeah. And unfortunately, they were on the end of a 5-1 drubbing, but a very good Arsenal performance. Anyway, long story short, as a kid growing up, I was taken to Newcastle by my father and sampled the Gallagher end, 60,000 fans. Fairs Cup in 1967, so I was only 8-year-old then, and I didn't quite. I don't know where it was about St James's Park at the time. I just didn't quite take to it, you know. And the next time I was really going to see a football match with one of my parents, was my mother took me to one of the games in the cup run where we won the FA Cup in 1973. And I say we, you know, because at the time I was a Sunderland supporter, and I have been ever since, you know. But whenever I've managed a team, that allegiance is by the way, you know, it goes by the wayside. Anyway, I was on the Terraces for the cup run in, and I didn't manage to get a ticket for the final, so I didn't go to Wembley to see the 1-0 win over Leeds. But I seen I think it was the 5th round and the 6th round. One of them was against Arsenal, one was against Man City. Two of the great teams of modern era, and we beat them both on the way to the final. And I just took to it. I just took to the Fulwell end more than what I did to the Gallagher end, if you like. I took to the red and whites opposed to the black and whites. Yeah. What was I looking for as a supporter? I wasn't looking to one day become a player. It never even crossed my mind them days. I was really enjoying the supporting side of it, standing on the terraces, getting behind the team. And you know what I'm talking about. It's when you're passionate about a football club, when you're passionate about a sport, you just want to get behind the team and make as much noise as you can and create an atmosphere so that the players want to play there, you know, that type of thing. And I used to love going to the Fulwell end on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Gates would open about 1:15. Yeah. And kickoffs at 3 o'clock. There's none of this modern day stuff, you know, where everybody's warming up and doing lovely stretches and all the dynamics, and goalkeepers have got their own section, they've got their own bag of balls, everything's going on the pitch. You can look at probably about, I think the warm-ups these days are probably about half an hour, and it's entertainment in itself. But you didn't have any of that in them days. You had 2 hours of preparing the stadium for an atmosphere, for tribal warfare, whatever you wanted to call it. And then the players would walk out at 2-3, kick a couple of balls about, and the game would kick off, and that was it. Game over. Yeah. Well, not game over, game on. But that's what I grew up with. And then obviously you played at school. I played for a non-league team. I played for a Sunday league team. And I was spotted playing for a Sunday league team called the Red Duster, who was one of the better ones. By he wasn't a chief scout. He was a director of Hartlepool United. He was probably walking his dog, simple as that. And he was standing on the touchline and going, "Hello." And he looked at me and he looked at me. And he, after the game, he just said, "Would you like to come and train with the reserves at Hartlepool on a Thursday night?" So
how old was you then, Phil?
I was 19. 19.
Oh, really? So you was quite. Obviously,
I missed it. I slipped through the net big time. I mean, the modern day era, as you well know, Scott. You can't get anybody. You can't get anybody. You're dealing with 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Big teams. Scouting parents. What bone size. What's the kid going to look like at birth and all that kind of stuff. And that was way ahead of the game at the time. I mean, you're talking about 1979, 78, 79. And I was playing non-league football, basically. And I was 18, 19-year-old, apprentice electrician. So fulfilled my father's ambition. My dad's ambition it was to get a trade. My mother's ambition was for one day for me to be a footballer.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So, absolutely.
It's not the other way around, isn't it?
That's crazy. But my mother was really into her football, really into her sport. My dad, not so heavily, not so much. He wanted to put food on the table for his family. That was his driving force, provide. And so when I got offered a non-pro contract, it was, I could still carry on with my apprenticeship. So I could still finish my apprenticeship. It was a 4-year deal, the apprentices then. It changed from 7 years to 5 and then 5 to 4. So at 20-year-old, I got me indenture forms as a qualified electrician, and I signed for Hartlepool United as a pro. So I managed to do both of my parents' ambitions for me, which was a fantastic achievement for me. But it was all to do with one Sunday director from Hartlepool United walking his dog. It's as simple as that.
Brilliant. That's mad, isn't it? The thing is, how did you adapt to that? Because we ask this question quite often. So you've gone from literally like Sunday league or county football to being a pro or a semi-pro football. Yeah, I like you say, I mean, obviously I can go back to my career. I went from obviously a young lad to Premier League footballer, and then from Premier League footballer straight to non-league. Yeah. I found that so hard to adapt because obviously all of a sudden from Premier League, you had a little bit of time to play. All of a sudden you're in non-league and people are tackling and it's flying. Yeah. So was it quite a tough experience, like you say, going from working to the full-time, I suppose, everyday training?
I'm listening to what you said there, Scott, and you would have a massive target on your back. Period. Yeah. You would have a target on your back. This kid's played Premier League football. I'm going to show this kid I'm better than him. Yeah. And, So that's a big ask for you. I was a non-league footballer coming into a professional environment and having to prove myself every day.
Yeah.
So I'm having to say to these people who I'm trying to gain their trust, gain their belief in me. I always remember the first day I went into the first team. I had to take time off work on the Friday, so I went training with the reserves at Hartlepool United on a Thursday night. The manager was there, Billy Horner at the time, and he came and he said, "What are you doing tomorrow, son?" And I went to start work at 7:30, and he went, "Be at the training ground at 10 o'clock." So I went, "How do I do this? I mean, I'm supposed to be at work." So I went to work, and I said to me foreman at the time, "I've been offered a chance of training with the first team at Hartlepool." I had no idea. I was playing at the weekend. They've already made the decision, but I had no idea. Yeah. So the boss said to me, "Jump in a car. Have you got a car?" Yeah, I've got my dad's car. "Jump in a car, get yourself to Hartlepool and make sure you're on time," and blah, blah, blah. So 7:30, I'm clocking in, 25 to 8, I'm clocking out, and I'm away to Hartlepool. And that basically was the start of my career. But then I had to go into a training session on a Friday. And I'm playing alongside Billy Ayres. Remember the legendary Billy Ayres?
Yeah,
he was hardest man in the northeast of England. He was brilliant. Yeah. He was great as an example of how the game was played in the lower leagues. It was blood and thunder. It was, muck and nettles, as we, all the terminology. Yeah. But Billy had a partnership going with a centre half, and I can't for the life of me think of his name. But Billy Horner was breaking that partnership up and shoving me alongside Billy Ayres. So Ayresy, straight away on the first day's training, I really had to make sure I was on the money to convince him I was good enough to play alongside him.
Yeah.
And
it's trust.
And he was like, I remember Billy saying it, "It's not good enough. He's not good enough. He's not." And I'm hearing him saying this. I'm thinking, "I'll prove to you I'm good enough." And I gained his trust, and eventually.
That's the classic there, though, isn't it? Where you either back the fuck up or you get the fuck in, isn't it? That's basically that.
Sink or swim.
Well,
yeah.
It was 100%. Strange enough.
Sorry to cut you off there, Phil, but
no, don't worry about that. I looked at probably in hindsight this now, I looked at the fact that Billy Horner had given me the opportunity. He was going to play me. It didn't matter what Billy Hayes said, he was going to play me. But I'm playing alongside somebody now who I've got to make sure that he trusts me and I trust him. Well, I trusted him with my life. Hayes, he was just phenomenal. What a great guy to play alongside in your debut, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was 216 games before I came out the team. 216 games. Aye.
Oh, wow.
So that was like the first 5 years in my career at Hartlepool. Probably the first 3 or 4 years alongside Azy, and that was a proper apprenticeship. And then I moved to Halifax, and Billy Hayes was the assistant manager. So again, that shows you the kind of job that you've done probably during that time without even knowing it. You know, just getting on with
Phil,
your
obviously you've clocked in and clocked out on that Friday. Obviously, the gaffer knew what the situation was. When did he actually tell you that you were going to be starting on that Saturday?
After training on the Friday. After training on the Friday, so I jumped in my car and went straight back to work. And,
really?
And I told me foreman there, and then I said, "Listen, I loved the graft. You know, there was always a half. You could have a half shift on a Saturday, half shift on a Sunday, no problem. You know, so 5 days, and then half shift Saturday, half shift Sunday. And I used to do the half shift on a Saturday, go and play football. I used to do the half shift on a Sunday, go play football, and that used to bolster your wages. Obviously, you double your money, you know." But at the time, I went back and I just said, "Listen, I'll not be at work tomorrow." So he was like, he was talking about organising a bus to get the lads to come and watch me play.
That's quality. Right. So Phil, so obviously you're at work. You've obviously, you're playing. You know, just tell. I mean, obviously I've been there. Just tell the people what's it like. You know what I mean? Who was it against? What was the average attendance?
Yeah.
Was the first team taking you straight away? Was you the new kid on the block? You know what I mean? How was it? Because for me, I never got nervous in football. Never. I didn't.
I can't remember the nerves, Scott. I really can't remember. I can remember the excitement, if that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I really look forward to it. I think nerves are ones where you don't look forward to it, but it's the same excitement, you know.
Yeah.
And I had an unbelievable coping system in me body. I was lucky. I think that's down to the parents myself. My mother and father, you know, doing things forward without us even knowing it, you know. And then the next thing you know, you're put under immense pressure. Everybody thinks you're under immense pressure. You're playing the game that you love. Where's the pressure?
Exactly.
Where's
no
the pressure? We played Peterborough United on the Saturday. I mean, I've got a picture of me on my debut in the local programme about 5 or 6 games later. And it was in the paper on the Saturday night, the Hartlepool Mail, I think it was called, where I'm going up for a corner. I'm just rising. There's about 5 or 6 bodies going up. I'm just rising to go and head the ball, attack the ball. And I didn't score anything like that, but I just went up to rise to head the ball. And the picture snapshot had my man down. And dad in the terraces. I mean, man down the terraces in the background. And I've still got that photograph. It's unbelievable. You can't write that. But 2-1. We beat Peterborough 2-1. So, I can remember it.
Was you at fault for the goal?
No. I never remember being at fault for anything.
Never forget them bad moments, mate. Never. So, Phil, obviously people start their pathway to their career in a total different position where they are in the professional league. Was that the same with you?
Position as in on the field of play?
Yeah.
Again, it's a good question. I just had this. I don't know whether it was down to the fact that I had a good coach at Hartlepool United in George Smith. I don't know if you remember George. George was a combative midfield player. He used to play for Birmingham, teams like that. And he's not a well-remembered person in terms of being a great coach or anything like that. But he had a discipline about him that used to get you back, if you were learning a trade, get you back every Tuesday, Thursday afternoons. And there was 5 or 6 of us always together. Me, Roy Hogan, Mickey Fagan, Stevie Vass, Kevin Johnson. We were always the same 5 or 6 players together, all in different positions and all different varying stages of our careers. But I learned how to play the right back role from them days, and it stuck with me right the way through my career. But also, when you're teaching or when you're part of the session with Mickey Fagan, who was a centre back, You would learn his trade as well to a certain extent. Then you had Roy Hogan centre midfield. You would learn his trade to a certain extent. You know, as you're rolling him a ball, what passes has he got? You know, so you go through all of that process, and consequently, because of that, I probably played in most positions on the field of play, Scott. You know, in the early days at Hartlepool, I remember playing up front with Bob Newton and Keith Houchin. I remember playing. I remember playing centre back with Billy Ayres to start off. Then I made a sort of career path was towards the right back role. I played ahead of a right back in a winger's position. Never for me. I was never quick enough, you know. And a tendency maybe is not to play so much on the left hand side because I couldn't trap a sandbag with me left foot. But you do learn that. You do. You can learn to play with your left foot. And the two coaches, George Smith and Willie Madron, were the two coaches that took me through at Hartlepool. Willie Madron said, left-hand side centre-back. If you're going to play centre-back, play left-hand side. And he taught me how to play the ball with the left foot. So good upbringing. Never forget them moments. Good upbringing.
So obviously you was 19. Was it 19 when you went into Hartlepool?
Yeah.
So you seemed you was a man. Did you go into that dressing room thinking, I tell you what, I'm a man. I've got no nerves. Or was you a cocky person with you back your own ability? Because a lot of people back their own ability. Or was you back your own ability in your head? Or was you a little bit shy going into that 13 dressing room?
No, I was cocky. I've got to say it. I was cocky. I backed my own ability, and I went into a changing room that had some characters in it. You know, I mentioned Bob Newton and Keith Houchin. They were the front two. Billy Ayres alongside me was a frightening character. You know, you had you know some. We had two centre halves, Andy Linnigan, Davy Linnigan, both came through the ranks at Hartlepool. Both went on to good careers. One at Arsenal, one at Ipswich. Could tell you a great story about them two. When in the 5 years that we had together at Hartlepool, you know, I'm going through the sort of 1979 to 1984. Billy Horner was probably manager of the team on 3 occasions when I first started. And then he got the sack and somebody else came in. And then he came back as a caretaker manager. And then he got the sack. And, you know, on 3 occasions I had Billy Horner. But I had a lad called Mick Doherty, you know, Tommy Doherty's son. And Mick Doherty was fighting for his life. And I'm talking about for his managerial life. You know, he was a very, very good coach. But Mick was struggling on the man management side of things in terms of being the main man. And there's one game we were playing, I'll never forget it. I was captain in the club at the time, and he never worked at it. That was the one thing that let him down. He never worked at it on a Friday where there was a change of system. He grabbed the whole. We got the coach down to Swindon. We're playing Swindon away. He got the coach down, and he said, "Brownie, come up to the front. I want to have a chat with you." He said, "I know I haven't worked at it." I said, "But I'm going to change the system tomorrow, and I'm going to play you." In the middle of the two centre-backs. I had Davy Linnigan one side, I had Andy Linnigan the other side. And I tell you, the giants of the game in terms of stature and everything. And I'm playing in the middle of them, sort of trying to read the game, and they were doing all the heading and attacking the ball and this and the other. I just swept up behind them. And we were 2-0 up with about 20 minutes to go. And we got beat 3-2. And Mick lost his job. And I'll always hold myself responsible for that. So you're 2-0 up. He's hanging on for this, you know, by the skin of his teeth. Yeah. And that was probably my first lesson in management. How important your commitment as an individual, every individual that crosses that white line, has to be for the club, has to be for themselves, but ultimately for the manager. If you're going to keep this guy in work, and that was the first lesson I learned. How important it was to give it everything, every game.
Yeah, massively.
Just to touch on something you asked earlier, Scott, in terms of walking into the changing rooms at 19 years old, do you think you benefited from not being in the youth setup and going through the reserves and stuff like that? Do you think you benefited more from that?
Maybe. I think again, it's a clever question in a certain way. Where you're more or less saying, where do I stand on academies these days? You know, and I think academies have been they've been a successful time for a lot of clubs. But if they're not run properly, right the way through, from the manager all the way down to whoever whoever takes the kids, you know. If they're not run properly, it can be a nightmare for young lads. And I was having this conversation today, actually, on the golf course with a guy who's from a rugby background. And he was saying, what percentage of success do you get in academies these days? And I said, 2%. So 2% success. That's not a success rate. That's a failure rate, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a 90% failure.
So with that in mind, having a career behind me, i.e. An electrician, I was a qualified electrical engineer who could actually start my own business anytime I wanted to, which I did do when I was 22, 23-year-old. I started my own business. I was doing rewires of houses whilst I was a pro footballer at the same time. Because there was so much time. You had so much time on your hands. Yeah. You know, you work a couple hours a day. If they don't get you back in the afternoon, I had a half a day to finish a rewire off, which I'd started at that weekend, you know.
That's brilliant. That's cool.
So what I would say was get an apprenticeship in life first before you actually take on football. Because if you don't understand the change room, if you don't understand what a man is standing up and saying to you as the manager, if you don't realise how important it is, forget about it. You're not prepared. You're not ready for it.
Well, you're expected to use. I'm assuming so. As a player, you're expected to use some high levels of interpersonal skills, which you're not just given as a person. You know, these come over time. You learn them over the space of a lifetime. So to be able to handle all the pressures that come with football, and then being able to take on board what someone says without being offended by it, you know, I'm guessing it isn't that easy for somebody young. Does that stuff get taught in the academies, or?
I don't think it does. Not from a personable skill. I think being in at the deep end, being exposed to the rigors of life, if you like, having a hard time is not the end of the world. Having a hard time and coming through it could be the making of anybody. So the footballing skills, I was very fortunate that all managers seemed to see a captain in me for some reason. I didn't see this in me. It was somebody seeing it in me. And from sort of 22, 23-year-old, I was handed the captain's role. And I'm saying
that's interesting, Phil. Phil, that's interesting, you see, because I'm a big fan of, I'd say a large percentage of footballers would see a leadership in themselves. So that's really good that you've said you didn't really see it yourself. Other people amongst the game with massive experience have seen it in you. That's
Scott,
really good.
Brilliant. I'm talking about changing rooms that had John Bird, Ray Kennedy, Bobby Kerr. You know, coming to the end of their careers, okay, all well and good, but you've got John Bird, Newcastle United, Doncaster Rovers. You know, I played a million games at a higher level. Coming into your change room, I'm like that. Oh, here we go. Yeah. You know, stature. You've got stature, and I'm getting the captain's job ahead of him. I'm thinking, wow, this is him. And Bobby Kerr, having lifted the FA Cup again, captain Sunderland. Ray Kennedy at the highest level. You can't imagine. Liverpool, Arsenal coming into the change room, and I'm captain. It's like, whoa, this is unbelievable.
Do you reckon it might have come from a sense of? I'm assuming you was humble. You was happy to be in the position you was in. Like, you never really thought you was going to go there. It wasn't really as you mentioned, like a dream. You didn't grow up wanting to do that. You're there. So all this euphoria of growing up and wanting to be there and finally being there, that's not there. You've got this, I'm just enjoying playing football. Does that play a big part, do you reckon, towards captaincy?
The humble side of it, the humility side of it is very important in every walk of life for me. You've got to understand that what humility is, where it comes from. That definitely, without a shadow of doubt, comes from your parents and your upbringing. Respecting people, respecting hierarchy, respecting managers for their positions, respecting the players around you. Even if you think you're better than them, you can't be saying it. You can't be. You've got to show it on a daily basis. And we used to have some battles, and I mean battles on the training ground where the manager had no control over it because we were going at it hammering tongues. Because if we did it on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it was going to happen on a Saturday. End of story. So we sort of we took control of the change room if the manager wasn't strong enough.
That's brilliant. Phil, the biggest thing for me, obviously you're 19, you obviously you played 200 odd games. The biggest, and this is probably a silly question for a lot of people, but when was that first night out with the first team? Because it's always an acceptance, isn't it? Once you get that invitation, you kind of go, I think I've made it here. And it's true, isn't it, Phil? Please back me on this one, because as soon as you get that, you're coming with me, son, and I'm getting you absolutely levered, you actually go home and go, I think I've been accepted. It's true though, isn't it, Phil?
That is such a, it was the way we were in them days. You know, it was an absolute no-brainer that the Tuesday club.
There you go, Matt.
Tuesday club.
Always. Wednesday off, wasn't it, Phil?
Wednesday off. It got to that stage where you needed it. You needed it because the Tuesday club was brutal, you know. And you would be battered on the Tuesday. You would be absolutely okay. They call them Terror Tuesdays. Now, we had Seaton Carew. We were running around hills. You name it. There was all sorts of. No, I wouldn't have called it punishment. I was talking today about this. You know, about how the modern day player is a lot. I wouldn't have said softer. I just said he's better prepared from a technical point of view.
Yeah.
And therefore, the rigours of the modern day game. And yes, we've got all these dementia problems. You've got heading the ball being an issue in the game. The game's changed unrecognisably, Scott. To the extent where you can't have the same argument. And I'm not prepared to want to have that same argument. I'm just saying, back in them days, if somebody had said to you, had said to me at 19, 20, 21, don't touch a drop of alcohol and see where it takes you, I don't know where that took me. Because I think the character of me stayed in the game because of the other side of it, which is crazy.
That was the culture. Of the party. Culture, wasn't it? The big culture in football that was back in the day, 100%.
And come a Tuesday where you've absolutely, you know, you've seen grown men crying because of the amount of pressure you put your body under, and then it was just race back, jump in a communal bath, and go and have a few beers together, and it was a tremendous camaraderie. It was a pulling together of I think it's, if you want to equate it to football, it's remembering the moments where you actually won a game of football by real grit and determination, and how often you did that, and therefore that team spirit was priceless.
I also said this, Phil, said, obviously, I'm not being disrespectful to Matt or Charlie, whoever listens. I honestly think you get a minimum 15 points just because of that team, bond. You know what I mean? For me, if you've got that little bit about you in that dressing room, that does get you, you could have the worst 90 minutes of your life, but that togetherness gets you through that 90 minutes and gets you them 3 points.
And that's the way we were. We understand that. You know, that's the nature of the game at the time. Now, I'm going to say to you guys now, who took the game to the next level, and I've got to say it, I was very privileged to be in the same company as Arsene Wenger when he first arrived in England. True story. I'd replaced Bruce Rioch at Bolton Wanderers when Bruce went to Arsenal. Colin Todd replaced Bruce Rioch, but Colin Todd then brought me to the football club from Blackpool. As I'm finishing my career as a player, he brought me to the football club as assistant manager. And we smashed the championship out of sight with 99 points or whatever it was. And we played some lovely football, but it was all down to Toddy and his philosophy about play, all the way through. But then we had this chance meeting in Sopwell House. We had a game in London. He had just got the job. Bruce had just got the sack, having just signed Dennis Bergkamp, and we all know that story. And Wenger had got the job, and he walks into the breakfast room, and I'm sitting there with Toddy, and he sat down beside us. Wow, this is like 2.5, 3 hours later. I'm still listening to this guy and the ideas he's got about how he's going to change the face of Arsenal Football Club, how he's going to change the way English football is, and all of these things were just spilling out his mouth. And I'd like to see this evolve.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it evolve? Did that evolve? I mean, so he took football, from the days of going out and doing a Terror Tuesday and then going on the lash, having the Wednesday off, and the drinking culture that was at Arsenal. It really was heavily big, involved in Arsenal. And then and being accepted in the game and being accepted in our world, Scott. And all of a sudden, Arsene Wenger comes along, he's changed the face. And everybody had to follow on because they had the fittest team in the country and the better technical team in the country. They were going to win things because of it. And there's us still having a beer. You had to change. Yeah,
that's true. No, I totally get that. Totally get that.
No, I get that massively. So we've covered across a lot of areas after. I think it was just one initial question asking if you want to be a footballer.
But Matt, listen, I've got to ask that now, though. So from Hartlepool to Halifax, then, Phil, how big of a change was that? Because obviously 200 and something games
Yeah.
Now you've got a different culture, you've got different players, different personalities. How much of a difference was that, or did you straight away again cocky 19? Well, obviously you're a bit older now, but you still had that cockiness about you. Did you just bounce straight into that dressing room and say, "Listen, lad, this is what I'm about"?
Pretty much so. I saw it as a move geographically for me. I thought the Northeast was out on a limb. I thought we had Newcastle, Sunderland, Hartlepool, Darlington, Middlesbrough, and nothing else for another 100 miles. That's the way I was saying. You had Carlisle straight across the way, but again, sort of out on a limb. And albeit a hotbed of football. Yeah. If you take Alan Shearer's career, Alan Shearer had to go elsewhere. It wasn't so much the hotbed of football, So anyway, cut long story short, I moved further south into I would have said, a block of teams where, people are going to be watching you and your career could spiral up over. It could go the other way as well, don't get me wrong. Yeah. So I moved for that purpose, that sole purpose of geographically get closer to everybody else, as it were. And I walked into a changing room full of character, but it was Azy, assistant manager. Mick Jones was the manager at the time. Not the Leeds United Mick Jones, the Derby County Mick Jones. And Cloughie had got him the job, and that was another lesson I learned. If you're going to start in management, get somebody, of the stature of Brian Clough to put your name in, of the stature of Alex Ferguson, who did that eventually, to put your name in. It gets you jobs in the world of football. But I learned a lot from them too as a management team. I thought they were brilliant for me. Mick Jones was a real psychologist, tough guy. But they were good. They were good cop, bad cop. They were brilliant at it, and it taught me a lot about the art of management.
So, what point did you think, as a footballer, I'm accepted now? I've made it. I'm accepted. Was it your 200th or 100th game for Hartlepool, or did it take you a long time to think at Halifax? Actually, people know I am now.
I thought it was the moment I got voted on the PFA. They used to have a PFA team at the end of the season for all four divisions. Obviously you had your individual winners, and I think the first time I went to the PFA Awards was when I was 27, and I was in my second year at Halifax, and I got voted in by my fellow players, which I to this day hold as one of the proudest things that I've ever achieved. You can win trophies and get promoted, this, that, the other, but from an individual perspective, to the extent where I made sure that we had a table. And the next thing you know, we've got two tables because the directors want to come down, the chairman wants to come down, everybody wanted to join in, and we've got a Halifax town, we've got a player voted into. It was brilliant. It was a great moment for me to get up on that stage and you're recognised as the best right back in that division that year.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that was probably the moment, Scott,
Yeah. Did Halifax buy you from Hartlepool, or did you go on a free transfer?
They bought. I think they paid. If truth be known, I think they paid £17,500.
That's not bad, is it? Back then, to be fair. It's not bad though, was it? You know what I mean? Back then, you know what I mean?
It might have been a free transfer. I might have got that wrong.
Oh right, yeah. Well, to be fair,
the signing on bonus, is it?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
No, I came to the end. I came to the end of my 5-year deal at Hartlepool, and I'm going back. It's a good story. This, I know we've got time to speak about it. Because I was the captain at Hartlepool United. You then get the shop steward's role, which is automatically given to you because nobody else wants it. So you're part of the PFA, and you have to do the voting system and this, that, and the other. But we actually had a real problem at Hartlepool. We went something like 5 weeks without bonus, 3 weeks without wages, and the PFA were telling me you can strike. If you want to strike, you can strike. And I'm getting that information from Gordon Taylor, and I'm a 24-year-old, 25-year-old kid, and I'm thinking, well, not kid, you're not quite the man, but I'm having to make a decision, so I'm having to phone all the players up and saying, listen, we're well within our rights to strike, and we did. And within a day, within 24 hours, we got every penny paid. So my stature in the change room went there. My stature in the boardroom went there. Yeah. So the next opportunity you got to sell me, out I went. And I came to the end of my contract at the end of that season. I got released on a free to Halifax.
So, do you mind talking about wages? How much was you on at Hartlepool compared to what Halifax was going to offer you? Or was that not a problem?
80 quid a week for the first 4 years, and then I went up to 125 on the last year. And then I went to, I think it was about 240 quid at Hartlepool.
Big leap.
It was a decent, because of the free, I think, more than anything else. And I think I'd worked with Azy, and Azy was a big push for me where that was concerned. He was saying he'll take the change room, take control of it, and this, that, and the other. And I really enjoyed my time at Halifax. But we had a cup run, and this is how you'll know what I'm talking about. This is how easy and how difficult it can be to get a move. We had a cup run against Bolton Wanderers, and we drew at their place. We brought them back to the Shea. We drew again and went back to their place. And we got beat over 3 games. It was always replays. Phil Neal was playing left back at that time. I know he was England's right back, but he was playing left back because he was bringing a kid through in his position, and he wanted to see him blossom. So he was teaching him to play right back. So consequently, when he was in the team, he was just finishing his career. He was playing left back. And I'm right back for the opposition. And all he can remember in 3 games was me bombing past him, going past him, getting crosses in. So he was the one who signed me for 17,500 at the end of that career, at the end of that season, to Bolton Wanderers. So that's how strange the game is, isn't it?
Oh,
so a guy walking his dog in a park, and me playing against Phil Neal, and he was playing out of position, and I'm bombing past him. Got me 2 moves.
At Coventry, he signed me in '95.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting to get your views on him. What did you think?
To be honest with you, he was really good with me because obviously he gave me the 5-year contract. But I think I can remember Paul Cook and Roy Wegley and Sean Flynn took me out, and I had 3 cocktails, Phil. TGR Fridays, absolutely steaming. Do you know what I mean? I was 15, nearly 16. I was like, Scotty, come out with me. We'll get you absolutely twisted, mate. I was hammered. And before I can remember, obviously getting steaming, I can remember him saying, "It's too soft. It's too soft." I think they got beat by, I think it was Wimbledon 5-1, and he gave them 3 days off. So it was kind of like, I was just turning 16, and I was thinking, what do you mean he's too soft? But for me, he started my career off. So I can never say anything. I mean, he was an unbelievable player. But
I always thought that was the, I was going to say the wrongdoing. How can it be? He had a fabulous career, 51 times for England, etc., etc. Yeah. The reason why I signed for Bolton was because Phil Neal was the manager. And my mother said to me there and then, she said, "You've got 3 or 4 clubs." I had 3 decent seasons at Halifax. He said, "You've got 3 or 4 clubs chasing you." I had Burnley, I had Peterborough. I think I had Coventry as well at the time. But I had Bolton Wanderers, and she said, "Best right back in the country. Who else could you sign for? He's going to teach you how to play your position. You've been playing with it for 6-7 years. He's going to teach you how to play." And I didn't think he was a coach. I thought he was a great figurehead. Yeah, because he had the stature. He had he had the career, but he wasn't really a top coach. Not for me. He had Mick Brown alongside him at Bolton, and Mick Brown used to do a lot of the coaching. You know.
Yeah, like you say, his experience. Yeah, his experience was a bigger stature than his actual coaching ability, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
I think you see a lot of those that can do can't always teach, and that's the case sometimes, isn't it?
So true.
So we spoke a lot there about different sides of how you got to where you got to, just in the early starts of your playing career. If we was to move into like a different side of it in terms of football at the moment, or when you first started out, what would you say has been the good thing about football for you? Is it the memories it's given you, or the life it's given you from there? You know, what's the good side to football?
It's both of them, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's also the good people that you meet, and the good characters that you meet, and you come back, you sort of sit back after your career, and you go, "I wonder why I sort of migrated towards him. I wonder why I went towards him. I wonder why." You know, that type of reflection. You probably find out a little bit more about your character, and you know, I mentioned Bruce Rioch before, having bumped into Bruce Rioch at 32-year-old at Bolton Wanderers. He replaced Phil Neal. And I thought, in terms of stature of management, his man management skills were second to none. He could put the fear of God into you, but he could also give you the right advice, and he did both of that to me. I had massive respect for Bruce, and he said, I've heard you've got a pub and you've got a restaurant." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're a qualified electrician, yeah. So are you thinking about leaving the game at the end of your career, playing wise?" And I went, "Yeah, at the moment, I can't see any reason why I should be staying in the game of football." And he went, "Don't be so stupid." He said, "You've been a captain since you're 22, 23-year-old. You've led changing rooms, you've led teams. You're doing that at the moment. You've still got 3, 4, 5 years of your game left. Start doing your badges. Start doing your..." I actually started with a certificate of applied management. So I went into the management side first before I went into the coaching side. And by the time I was 37, 38, I bumped into Sam Allardyce at the right time. And he gave me an opportunity to start coaching. So it fell in nicely. But that advice from Bruce Rioch at 32 was priceless.
And what's your thoughts on Sam? As an outsider looking in, you'll get generally different sides of the coin. Which side of the coin do you do?
Phil, I don't like him.
Aye. A lot of people don't. He's a Marmite guy, you know. I got very fortunate at the time when I finished my career, or when I was coming to the end of my playing career. Bobby Saxton was his assistant at Blackpool, and Sacco was a man of management stature himself. You know, Plymouth was a big club for him. Blackburn Rovers. He'd done a lot of, you know, management himself. And Sam took him on board as a assistant manager. And Owen Oyston was not too sure about it. You know, he had Billy Bingham on the board of directors at Blackpool, and saying to Billy, "We're not too sure about this guy." He said, "Well, Sam's got a brilliant road from him. He's assistant manager and he's chief scout. So he'll go to games, he'll do this, that, and the other." Yeah. So he sold it as a two-man job in one. And he got the job because of it. But Bobby didn't. He loved just being on the training ground. That was Bobby's forte. You know, that was his strength, being on the training ground every day. He didn't want to go to games and this, that, and the other. And eventually Billy Bingham got to the bottom of him and got rid of him. And then I got the call from Sam saying, "Come and be my assistant manager." And sort of from that moment, we had a good relationship in terms of management. You know, we had a good relationship in terms of friendship. It hasn't always been that way. He's gone his way and I've gone my way. I always wanted to be a manager, and consequently, you know, when things come to a head, you go your separate ways, don't you? I've got my own life. He's got his own life, and good luck to him, you know.
The thing is, Phil, when I got let go on a free transfer at Coventry, Strachan and himself had a little chat, and he said, "Scotty, come down to Notts County, play 2 games. I think it was Everton at home, it was Newcastle at home, Everton away." And I can remember I brung the ball down on my chest and played it to the left back. Obviously the first team gaffer, so he's obviously watching from the stands. He's come hurtling down half time, absolutely destroyed me for just bringing the ball down on my chest. And he's gone, "Who the fucking think you are? Fucking Premier League footballer?" I'm looking at him thinking, what? Anyway, didn't think anything of it. I thought I'd done decent. Anyway, went to Everton away, and they played that Lill MRI at the time. And there was a ball to put in the box. I'm left-footed. So I thought, it's a bit of a different angle. So I just thought, I'll play it to Justin Jackson. He'll play it back. I've got a better angle. I whipped it in. Half-time again. Just put the fucking ball in the box. You're not going to sign for me. I just thought, you can fuck right off. I'm not signing here. And that was it. I've never liked him ever since. Was you the assistant at Bolton in about 2001?
Yes, I was. I
don't like you now. So, so Sam's rang my gaffer and said, "Listen, I want Scott on trial for 2 weeks." I didn't know nothing about this until obviously later on. And my gaffer at the time, John Baldwin, went, "Listen, if you want him, you'll have to buy him." And someone was like, no, I just want to take him on trial for 2 weeks, see how it goes. Yeah. And then John Baldwin, my gaffer, just went, "Listen, deal's off then." 3 months later, he went, "Scott, I've got something to tell you. You got an afternoon." I was like, yeah. He goes, we'll go for a beer, go for something to eat. I was thinking, here we go, new contract. He went, Sam Allardyce at Bolton was interested in taking him on trial. He said, but no chance. We wanted 20 grand for you. So we've turned it down. Do you know what I mean? So now I just felt like...
These things happen, though. These things happen. It can change your life.
Is this what we spoke about the other day, Scott, in terms of did you have an agent?
No, I always did my own. Yeah.
So if you didn't have an agent, nobody's telling you, like, oh, this guy's coming in. And
no.
Right, okay, that's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I mean, looking back now, hindsight says it would have been beneficial, but, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, my perception of Sam was he was just a very scary, big stature of a man, and he was. I mean, Phil, I'm obviously you as assistant, so you might see a different aspect, but he just seemed to have that bit of aura about him where he was quite a scary character, to be honest.
It's funny you're saying that because at the end of it all, if you like, and you go back on your time, Sam's best thing that he ever said to me as an assistant manager was, "You're not working for me, you're working with me."
Yeah.
And he actually treated me like that all the way through until the moment I decided to become a manager myself. And then he was on the team bus where Hull City were concerned. He was on the team bus leaving Wembley after we'd got promoted to the Premier League. He was on the team bus. He was on the team bus and came back to the Grove. Sat up front with me. He was out of work at the time. He got sacked by Newcastle, and he just sat on a team bus, and he went, biggest smile on his face, and he just went, "Brownie, well done, Brownie." You know, I can remember them days like as if they were yesterday. You know, I just said, "Come on, I've done this with you so many times off your back. You know, you've been successful, and I'm assistant manager. Okay, you've got a part to play. You get all that part, but really, how much is on the manager? How much is on the assistant? How much is on the first team coach? It should be a shared experience, but there's such an emphasis on the manager to win things.
Yeah.
There I was sitting on the coach, going back to the Grove, and I've got Sam alongside me, who's taught me a lot of things in the game, and he's out of work, and I've been promoted to the Premier League. You know.
So while we're on this part here, this promotion, going back to the Groves, I want to know what happened that night. There's got to be some stories. There's got to be some stories there.
Great night, honestly, just a fantastic night. We had Andy. I remember Andy Dawson and all his brothers came back with us. I had Sam there. Dean Windus, just crazy, just drinking everybody under the table, or at least trying to.
Who was first to bed and who was last up?
Well, strangely enough, the first one up was Dean, and he was pint of Guinness with his cornflakes, and it was literally, I could not sleep. I can't kid you not. I couldn't sleep. I walked into the Grove reception area probably at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, floating into this place. Beautiful place, by the way. We had the garden, walled garden. We cordoned off the walled garden area at the back, and we just had the party of all parties. I had all my mates with me in the game, out the game. Sam had gone. He had a driver taking him back home. And I walked into the reception area, and I just decided to walk straight into the breakfast area. I didn't sleep that night at all. And I didn't need it. I just didn't need it. I was just floating. And Dean was the first. Yeah. Dean was the first one down, sat beside me, just crying his eyes out, kissing me and everything. And he has a pint of Guinness with his cornflakes. Brilliant.
Has he gone to bed, or has he just carried on?
No, he's definitely not gone to bed.
He's gone right through.
He's definitely gone right through.
Dean, there's every chance.
Phil, you know what? We spoke to Brian last week, and you know, when that week prior to the playoff final, we asked Brian, was there different in tempo in training sessions? He didn't seem to think there was, but as a manager, I believe that you might have seen something different there, because, like you say, when you go to a derby, like say Hull Leeds, there's always that little bit of.
I think Nobby might have missed out on this one. I don't mean missed out on it. Maybe as a manager, you are a little bit, and he'll know what I'm talking about, over 1,000 games as a manager. You get a little bit closer to the players, you get a little bit closer to the intensity. You do. As an assistant manager, first team coach, You do the warm-ups, you do the intricate passing drills and this, that, and the other, and then sort of the technical, tactical side goes across the manager. And if players are not sort of picking up on what you're saying or taking on board information, and I always remember this the reason why I'm telling you, I always remember this as an assistant manager under Sam when we were playing Preston North End was in the final. I'm trying to think. We used Arsenal's training ground, and we were at Wembley. And the preparation for the game, it was the playoffs. Yes, it was against Preston North End. Anyway, long story short, I literally said to Sam, I'll just take the first 15, 20 minutes. I'm just doing a circle. And literally had a circle with 2s and 3s in the middle and all sorts of stuff. And it was a lovely surface. Never forget it. It was the best London Colney. Wenger had lent us it. No problem. Get on with it. And the next thing you know, Sam came across, Brownie, I've seen enough. And I'm sort of looking over my shoulder. What do you mean you've seen enough? Look, they were tackling each other neck high. They were absolutely at it. Now, I had named the team 2 days before because he wanted to get as much preparation in as he possibly could. So you've named the team the day before. You're now doing the day -1, match day preparation to -1. And so I'm thinking this circle, they're going to smash each other at smithereens here if I don't stop it.
Yeah.
And that was my lesson as an assistant manager. So I thought then maybe one day I'll have to do that and pull the plug on a training session when somebody else is taking it. And lo and behold, it was I think it was leading up to the Watford game. You know, the Watford game over 2 legs.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we lost Dean Marnie in between the 2 games. And that was down to a training ground incident, if you like. And not a nasty incident. I just mean to say it was a bad tackle in training. And we got back in the change room afterwards and went, could we have prevented that? Because you always, as a manager, you always hold yourself responsible for players' welfare, players, you know, how they're thinking, how they're playing, how they're reacting, this, that, and the other. And I said, Nobby's like, no, don't be silly. No, it's impossible. It could happen any time. And I think he was maybe trying to justify himself or trying to justify Steve Parker or whatever. And he didn't have to do that. Never had to do that where I was concerned. I just thought, could we have avoided that, lads? And I hold myself responsible, you know. Yeah.
So, Phil, when did you name the team going up to that Bristol City game? Did you do the normal? Did you do the normal structure? You named the team Friday afternoon. Did you have the meeting, or did you do it totally different in preparation for this one?
No, we tried to stick to as near as damn it to as a normal routine. The Watford game was obviously a 2-legged affair, and then leading up to the biggest game and the interest in that game was phenomenal. Just a massive buzz about the place, and we just tried to keep it as normal as we possibly could, apart from the fact that we went down to London a day earlier than what we normally would do, you know. You would address the group. I'm talking about outside, not in a classroom effect, you know. So you were still a football team, you know. You're still talking a group of players, and you were saying this is the team. And I fully understand if, say, for instance, I'm playing against you, Scott, and I decided, right, Scott's in my position, I'm going to do him in training. Everybody can see that. Everybody can see that, you know. And I more or less said to the group that weren't playing, you know, so I've named the team, the group, that the 11, 12 players that weren't playing. If you want his shirt, by all means, go and grab it. Go and snap them in two. How do you think you'll feel after you've done that? Because I might still not pick you if you do something like that. So let's respect the fact that I've named the team and let's get on with it. This has worked for us all year. We'll continue to try and work for it for one more game.
Yeah. So you know the people that you left out. Then did you obviously individually? Did your style change, or did you just do it as if you were playing another team basically?
Same. I stayed the same. I didn't necessarily, unless I was dropping somebody like a Nicky Barmby or something like that. You know, you're going to pull Nicky to one side because you've got massive respect for what he's done in the game. And the one thing about Nicky Barmby, you would fully understand it, but he would ask you a very pertinent question, Nicky, that's for sure. Where Dino was concerned, Dino was always like, I'm better than him, what are you picking him for? You know, it's as simple as that. So there was ways and means of dealing with individuals, but at the same time, if you remember rightly, how many subs was it? Was it 5 subs or 3 subs? I don't even. It's five
Half,
subs.
wasn't it? Yeah.
But if you look at the two guys that weren't even changed, but they were sitting in the dugout with us, JJ Okocha and Henrik Pedersen. I brought them two for different reasons. I brought them, one, because of the Premier League experience, for sure. Two, I had to do a sales pitch on Brian Horton and Steve Parkin on JJ Okocha, because they were both like, whoa, hold on a second, he's 35, 36-year-old, he's past his best and this, that and the other. My sales pitch was unreal. It was like, we'll finish training today, lads. Come to the KC Stadium with me now. And they're going, why? I said, we've had the conversation about JJ Okocha. Well, he's signing today, and just look at the exposure that he'll bring to the city of Hull individually on his own. And we walked into the press conference. There was about 40 camera crews in the press conference. It was he's a worldwide phenomenon. He was a class act. And we played the game, Scott, in England. This guy was world exposure. PSG, for God's sake, But he was a great guy as well. And I know Brian and I know Steve like the good people in football, and JJ was one of them.
Yeah, and I think if you speak to many Hull fans, they'll say to you, "What was that moment when you was like, oh my God, we're actually getting big here?" It's that moment when JJ Okocha signs. You're like, how have we got JJ Okocha in a Hull City shirt? And that was a big moment. But you have just mentioned on Nick Barmby, and one of the questions one of my colleagues at work asked me was, Nick Barmby fell out with the Allams in 2012, obviously after your time. But did you see enough in Nick Barmby for him to become a success as a manager, like from what you saw with him?
It's a good question on Nicky. I always thought he had great stature, potential in terms of the Phil Neal side of things, which we've talked about. In terms of the man management side of the game, might have been a little bit difficult for him. He was a very, very talented player, very, very talented individual, had been blessed with amazing ability to see a game, see a game better than or different from anybody else. But to be able to pass that thing on is the key to, I think, coaching. It's the key to education. It's the key to management long term. And maybe that part of it wasn't for Nicky. I think Nicky, to a certain extent, got forced into it. He seemed to be the right fit for the football club at the time. Having seen what the Allams were going into and what they were doing, maybe they needed somebody that was a cult figure in Hull City's history, and certainly a local boy. And he obviously fell into that category on both fronts. But when it come down to hard-nosed decisions, which managers sometimes have to do and have to put themselves through, and by the way, they have to put the families through as well, because it takes time making hard-nosed decisions. Maybe that part wasn't for Nicky.
Yeah, sometimes difficult decisions where you have to make yourself look like the bad guy.
Yeah,
he came across like the good guy all the time, so it's hard to make yourself feel like the bad guy when you're always the good guy, I guess.
Yeah.
So
he had that little bit of nastiness about him, though, didn't he? As a player,
on the field of play, he was unbelievable. He had a real
his awareness was unbelievable, wasn't it? As well,
he had a real feistiness.
Frightening. Yeah,
but again, it's Scotty's delivery. We came off having been battered by Everton in the Premier League's second season. This was, and Jimmy wasn't having the best of games, and Nicky came up alongside me in the tunnel at Everton, and he just said, "Can I start? Can I open up?" And I'm like, sometimes it's better coming from a player.
It is,
that's the way I was thinking. So I let Nicky open up, and it just went too personal. It just went too personal, and then next thing you know, your second half's a disaster, and the game finished. I think we got beat 6.
I think I've heard about this. Is this where he mentions Jimmy's money, how much he's getting paid and stuff like that?
That's just personal. That's personal.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work as far as I'm concerned. Everyone knows each other's gig, and what you're worth, and this, that, and the other. And if you're not pulling up trees for to get that kind of dough, then okay, that's better if it comes from a player. But it's, at the same time, you've got to maintain your level of when you deliver it. It has to be
professionalism in it as well.
Yeah. Yes, but it has
to.
Your delivery has to be the right pitch.
Yeah,
if it just
level of frustration.
If it just becomes personal, the rest of the team may as well go out the changing room. Let them just get on with it.
Yeah, 100%.
So while we're talking about these two, then we've got to ask, what actually went down on Mimber Bridge?
It was the same weekend, strangely enough. So we'd been drubbed, under no uncertain terms, by the way, by Everton. And then on the Monday morning, we came in. It was the Sunday. The game was on the Sunday, I'm sure it was. And on the Monday morning, we brought the players in. And I'm doing my staff meeting, which was at Cottingham. And I brought all the staff in and was sitting talking from 7:30 onwards, until the players started coming in, dribs and drabs, about 9:30. So 2 hours, we're talking about what's the best thing forward, how we're going to change, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, what went wrong, what can we put right. All of them heavy decisions were being made behind closed doors. And if you ever see the dark side of Brian Horton, my word, on a Monday morning, you saw it. When he had to say something, he said it, and many a times he would deliver it at me to get me up and get me to do something, and that's the way it was. We had a great relationship. Me, him and Steve Parkin had a wonderful relationship. That's the reason why we succeeded, or the success that we had. Anyway, long story short, we got to 9:30, 9:45, and the lads were like sitting in the canteen. What we're doing? Right, Humber Bridge, warm down. Just for me, it used to get your head up, breathe, just have a look around, look at the surroundings. What a fantastic structure. Walk across the bridge, jog across the bridge, just a warm down. And I'd forgot all about the little ruck that Nicky and Jimmy had. And obviously them two have gone home. They've gone their separate ways, and now they're coming back into work. And then it had remained personal to the extent where I didn't go and take the warm down. The fitness coach did. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mark Prudhoe, goalkeeping coach, fitness coach, and maybe Steve Parkin. And I didn't have a clue that I think it was the women's organisation were having a march that day. And they were going across the bridge at the same time.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was, yeah.
They were going across the bridge at the same time. And the next thing you know, it's coming on the radio back at Cottingham. It's coming on the radio that there's been a fight. Oh, dear me, what's going on here? So
that's
I'm glad.
The worst fight in the world, by the way.
I'm glad I wasn't there. I wouldn't want to pay money to see that scrap.
Oh my God, no!
It's like the YouTube boxers nowadays. That's what it is.
So the build up prior to that Everton game. Did you ever have like a little inkling that these two was like loggerheads?
Not at all.
Or was it just literally at the Everton game? Nicky's had 100%. Enough.
100%, and it was a lot to do with. It probably was a lot to do with finances,
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we took Hull City from 3, 4, 5 grand a week to eventually you're in your 40s. You're paying 40 grand a week. That's and therein lies the other story about did I believe that Jimmy was going to take us to the next level? I firmly believe that. But the financial side of it, when he got injured in the very first game, that is such bad luck that you cannot legislate for that. By the same player as well, by Scotty Parker. One tackle, and then 10 months later, he gets another tackle and puts him out for a year. I just convinced my board of directors to spend $5 million on Jimmy Bullard and give him in excess of 40 grand a week.
Yeah.
So the next player I brought in my head, had to be at that level. And it was Bobby Zamora. Bobby Zamora. I had Bobby in my head. I couldn't get Bobby out of my head. And Bobby had heard that, all of a sudden Hull City were playing big money. So I had met Bobby, showed him around the area, showed him the fishing, at the various fishing places at Swanland and the surrounding areas. That's all he was interested in. Away from football, he loved fishing.
Yeah.
And I sold the area to him. I did a job on him, but he went in excess of Jimmy. And Brian and Steve were like, not sure. So instead of Bobby Zamora, we signed Jan Vennegoor of Hesseling and Josie Altidore. So I got 2 for the price of 1.
So 1, yeah.
But at the same time, if you ever go into management, Scott, if you can get the quality, whatever it costs you, if the board's willing to pay it, get the quality. So Bobby Zamora, I think Bobby would have took us into the final third and kept us there longer than what the 2 guys we brought in,
Yeah, I get
Josie had a bit of a slip, didn't he? He didn't have the best of times.
No.
That's. Can you mention this or not? Because I've heard that He was obviously only meant to sign for 40 grand a week, but when he's looked down at his contract, it's 50 instead. There's a clerical issue there. It's with Jimmy.
No, not as far as I was concerned. No.
Right. Okay. That's fine. That's just wanted to stamp out a rumor or not there. So that's fine.
There's always going to be rumours. Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Always rumours. So obviously, the team spirit obviously must have been massive on the build-up. I know we're going back a little bit again to the Bristol City game. Who was the hardest, I suppose, player to manage building up to in that season? Because, Phil, people always think, Phil, right? This is gospel truth. All these outsiders think all footballers get on, the manager gets it. It's nothing like that, is it? People only like you as a manager if you're playing them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
you always get these one. Do you know what I mean? So, who was quite a challenge to manage in that aspect?
Strangely enough, for different reasons, for different reasons. And what I mean by that is, if I give Dean Marnie as an example, Dean came from Spurs, and he thought, without being disrespectful, Spurs were a bigger club than Hull City, obviously. But he thought because he came from Spurs, he automatically should be playing.
Right.
And that because we were bringing better players in at the time, that wasn't the case. So handling Dean and his expectancy of what he thought of Hull and what he thought of me and the backroom staff, and I should be playing every week. I should be playing every week. And I was putting, without a shadow of a doubt, I was putting Ian Ashby ahead of him on some games. And Ian Ashby, for me, as the character I am, he was first on the team sheet. Whether you liked him or loathed him, he was ever present because he's reliable. He was reliable. He wasn't going to be a goal scorer. He wasn't going to do this, wasn't going to do that. But you could actually pick a team around him, protect his weaknesses, where he couldn't really get about too much.
Yeah.
But we played in a 4-3-3 where he was the central, pivotal key to the midfield first and foremost, but also the protection of the two centre halves. Two centre halves weren't the quickest. Wayne Brown and Michael Turner weren't the quickest by any stretch of the imagination. But the most important was the fact that I said to the players, because we started getting a little bit jittery. I'm telling you this as a fact of a manager seeing it. Started getting a little bit jittery coming towards the latter stages, maybe game 40, if you like, the last 6 games. And it wasn't the fact that we were playing rubbish football or anything like that. I just seen one or two things in the way people were conducting themselves, probably off the field of play more than anything else. Because you get to know everybody. You're living on top of each other at Cottingham. It was brilliant. What a great training ground. Fantastic. Yeah. And the couple that used to run the training ground for us, Brian and Paula, were part and parcel of a bigger family that created a success that they probably never got the credit for. There was a cup of coffee waiting for me when I arrived at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. No matter what time I arrived, there was breakfast ready for me. If I wanted a bacon sandwich, I could have one. And then that continued all through the day, coffee whenever you wanted it. And it sounds easy, but it's not. You're creating an environment where you can trust people, you can rely on them. And they lived upstairs, and it was just fantastic. Brian loved them. But the point I was going to say was...
Tea and biscuits.
The point I was going to say was that we had some lower league players, that had never played in the Premier League. And then getting towards 6 games to go, they're seeing the Holy Grail, they're seeing the Premier League. And there's a fear factor, without a shadow of a doubt, You're getting to see possibly an automatic promotion. I mean, it was only a game away from getting automatic promotion. Yeah. And then we hit that jittery moment. I think it was Ipswich away, wasn't it? The second last game of the season.
Yep.
Where we missed out on an automatic promotion. And then we were in the playoffs. And then I'm thinking, wow, what's my sales pitch going to be now? We've knocked at the door all season now, climaxing with missing out. I just promised everybody, regardless of what deal they wanted, I promised everybody in this change room would play in the Premier League. Whether it be 1 game or 38 games, doesn't matter. You'd play in the Premier League. So I'm not tearing contracts up. I'm not renewing contracts automatically. I'm just saying I will play, including likes of Wayne Brown, who Wayne really lacked pace, and we're going up another level. This lad could read the game for England. He was a great reader.
He was phenomenal.
He was a great passer. But if you come up against out and out pace, that's where he might struggle. And then Michael's hinges might come off, the wheels might come off his trolley. So with that in mind, I thought the players trusted me, believed in what I was saying, and thought, well, this could be my only chance of playing Premier League football. And lo and behold, we got there,
Brilliant.
I think I did fulfill that promise to everybody.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
A couple of players you mentioned about those that have played at the lower levels. To mention a couple, would you be along the lines of the Ryan France, Richard Garcia, along those sort of players? Any others that maybe kind of sort of, or was it more of a excited? This is it now. We're on our way.
I loved Andy Dawson. I loved him to bits. I thought he's Mr. Reliable, not the quickest, not the tallest. Never got done at the back post, and hardly ever got done one-on-ones neither. I mean, I remember the day when we won 2-1 at Arsenal. We had been the previous week at Spurs and won 1-0 there, and Andy Dawson's coming up against the quickest wingers in Theo Walcott and who was the other one? Little fella at Spurs.
Aaron Lennon.
So he's come up against them two in the space of a week or 2 weeks, and never got a crossing. They never got a crossing. And Andy was like comfortable against this pace because he read the game. He was just composed. And then you find out about his family background. You get to know him a little bit better, and he's the Dawsons are reliable sources. It's probably the way they were brought up. Sam Ricketts on the other side. Sam was a little bit more, maybe a little bit more glamorous than Andy, but again, reliable on one-on-ones. That's what fullbacks are paid to do. Yeah. 2 stops the 11, 3 stops the 7. And when they've done that job, the 2 centre-halves are not getting picked off, Ian Ashby. How can Ian Ashby go from the 4th division through to the Premier League and captain every team? It was just phenomenal. But you go on the front line and you think of the guys that we brought in. Caleb Forlan did a very good job, more or less from the bench though. Yeah. He was a good impact sub, He was a good impact sub. There's loads. You can mention them all, Dean Marnie actually got to the stage where I thought he did actually become that player. That he was banging on my door telling me what kind of a player he was. and I'm saying do it on a Saturday. And then eventually he became that player,
Oh,
did Andy Dawson
go on, Matt. Go.
So did Andy Dawson ever mention that Cruyff stand he did on Ronaldo? I remember the Cruyff stand like it was yesterday. He loved the Cruyff stand, didn't he? He was always doing the Cruyff stand.
Colin Murphy did a half-time team talk one day. It was absolutely priceless. And Colin was man of the march here. He was brilliant. He was brilliant for a laugh. He was brilliant for the serious side of things. He got me, and I got him every minute of the day. I knew when he was serious. I knew he was on the money. But when we were sort of vying for the manager's role, we sort of shared the caretaker role, as it were, after Phil Parkinson left.
Yeah.
And I knew all along that he was just saying it. He didn't want the job. He would love to have worked with me and got me the opportunity, but he was saying he wanted the job to see what I would do. Because if I wanted the job as well, I've got to be better than him, So he was doing it for a reason. His psychology was brilliant. But he said to Andy Dawson one time, I think on the South Coast, I can't remember where we were playing, it was Plymouth or somewhere like that. And he came in at half time and he started doing his dance in front of Andy Dawson. And I'm like, oh, you've got to start saying something here. You can't just be dancing in front of Dawson. What's he doing here? And he was actually dancing in front of him. And he said, Dawson, will you stop doing this? And he was doing this Cruyff turn. He was doing the Cruyff turn, and the whole changing room. I'm looking around, the lads are like biting their lips. It was hilarious. And Dawson's looking at me as if he's waiting for a reaction from me.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That's quality. So, Phil, going from Championship manager to Premier League manager, did you have to adapt your approach from Championship to Premier League, or did you just say, listen, I'm not going to change my approach, but lads, listen, the levels, that to that is massive. So did you think about the philosophy side or the other side of the game? Did you get help from like your Wengers? Did the other managers ring you, congratulate you? Do you know what I mean? Was there any kind of...
I think I got a lot of help in the early stages from the likes of Alex Ferguson, from the likes of Arsene Wenger. Not necessarily picking a phone up to me and saying this, and this.
Yeah.
Just the odd occasion, maybe a quote in a newspaper column or a quote in a program, notes by, what a great job, blah, blah, blah. Great to see Hull City, new member of the Premier League, 104-year history, blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff. But then after 10 games in there, then they all realised we meant business,
Yeah.
And and you couldn't underestimate what we were doing. It was just a fabulous start, 9 games in, you got 20 points on board. You're actually halfway there. You're halfway there with 30 games to go. Yeah. So with that in mind, they started taking us seriously. And if you remember rightly, I think it was the Portsmouth game, 10th game in. I think it was Portsmouth. 2-2. We played Portsmouth away.
Was it 2-2?
No, I think we got beat. That was the 10th game, and then we went to Sunderland after that. If it's 2-2, I've got it wrong. And that was the moment where I looked at who was manager. It would have been Harry Redknapp, Joe Jordan, and Kevin Bond was the trio. And they absolutely diagonal bowled us to death. And I thought, hello, these have done a bit of homework on. They've said, bring him across here and get, expose the opposite fullback. Whereas it was always, if you remember the Arsenal 2-1 where we won, the reason why Dawson had a lot of one-on-ones is because he had Giovanni in front of him. So he had Giovanni in front of him, and I'm thinking Giovanni's not going to provide too much protection, but at least he's there, he's blocking it up.
Yeah.
And
an outlet,
But then the moment where the game changed for us is when we shoved Giovanni inside, and he changed the course of the game with that great goal. But them little tactical things still clear in my mind that day where we played Portsmouth and we got beat. That was the day that the Premier League started respecting Hull City.
Right.
Whereas the first 9 games, I think they were actually believing the bookmakers, saying that we'll go down as 20th.
Yeah.
They were believing the bookmakers were saying that we'll probably get less points than Derby County. You remember Derby when they
I remember.
12, 13 points.
That was it. Yeah.
So we had a lot of motivation.
Who surprised you on the touchline in the Premier League? When you kind of think, I'm not too sure what he's going to be about, in a good way and a bad way. You know what I mean? So like Wenger, he's more of a sit down and an observer of the game, where you get the likes of whoever it was, more of a shot on a bowler. Who surprised you in that aspect?
Surprised. There was a lot made out where the press were concerned about the coaches and the behaviour of the coaches to a certain extent. It was something I didn't really take to, because what does it mean? The game starts. What does it mean? What effect? Say if it was a percentage, Scott, what effect can we have on that game? We can have an effect making a change of system. We can have an effect in substitutes and this, that, and the other. But you've done all your work beforehand. So if you were bawling and shouting on the touchline, I often look at, and I've been one all my life. I often look down the line and I think, what effect are you having? Maybe a little bit on your health yourself. Instead of doing yourself a disservice. It's them. The quiet deliverers, they're the key ones for me. They're the ones that scare me. I like the ones that are ranting and raving. I don't mind the ones that are ranting and raving all day long. Joe Kinnear being one of them. Joe walked down the touchline to me when we played them at Newcastle, and I thought, hello, the crazy gang's just arriving here. I'm just about to get knocked out here. But fortunately, the referee intervened. We both got sent to the stand, sitting there side of mate Ashley.
Well, the famous one that you must be sick to death of talking about is the famous halftime team talk at Man City.
Yeah.
So we asked Brian last week, did you have a part of it? Did Phil get you involved? Blah 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 blah. He just basically said, "Listen, them 4,000 fans behind you, show some kind of spunk, I suppose." But how did it come about? Everybody. I mean, we must have at least 15 questions on this. Because to be fair, I think the media took it in a different aspect to, I'm a football person. I seen what you did. I totally got what you did. But so some people, it was a bit
public.
Bizarre. Yeah, it was a bit bizarre. I honestly thought what you did was correct.
I've thought long and hard about it, and I've been asked the question a million times, and I stick by the fact that I would have done it again. Yeah. I also stick by the fact that I did it for the fans. Yeah. It was a gesture to them because of what they had done. A lot of people don't actually understand what a fan goes through. Me being a fan, which I started the podcast with, I've stood on the terraces and I know what it's like to be a part of that team, that environment, that atmosphere. And then when you get let down by the team, again, I know what it feels like. You lose it, you want to give them some stick, you want to this, that, the other. But I very rarely give my team stick if they were putting a shift in. And I didn't see the shift. And that was a rarity for Hull City. That was something that people couldn't question. If opposing managers or coaches were doing a recce on Hull City, they would say they're never out the game. They're never beaten. They've always got a foothold in the game. That they're hard work and this and all the good things that I hear about footballers are the ones that stay in the game, that put a shift in. Going back to my working class days, I suppose. And we had like 4,500, 5,000 behind us. The goal. I didn't even think about Rubinho, 33 million. I didn't think about 17 million budget. I wasn't thinking that way. I just said 39th minute, I think the fourth goal went in. And I turned to Nobby, I said, not for me, this. And Brian knew what I was talking about because we had a couple of players hadn't behaved properly before the game in the preparation for it, Hadn't behaved properly on Christmas Day. And I've got 4,500, 5,000 people had behaved properly on Christmas Day to get to the game. And I've got two players representing the club hadn't behaved properly who have remained nameless. And I said to Brian, I said, I'm going
until now.
Yeah. I've said to Brian, I'm going to cross here to do the team talk. And he went, why not? That was his response. Why not? I said it to Steve Parkin, and Steve blew his cheeks out. Wasn't too sure. Which is a good opinion as well. They're both good opinions. Yeah. At the same time, the guys had probably 3 minutes to talk me out of it. Yeah. And then I walked on the pitch at the half-time whistle, and the first bloke I bumped into was Ian Ashby. And Ashby went, Gaffer, where are we going? I said, over there. Team talked over there. He just turned round. Walked over. The whole team then turned round and just walked over. I went, wow, this is buy-in for me. So all the media outlets, I tell you that, I lost the change room. He did that. He did this. He did that. I had the change room absolutely where I needed them, where I wanted them. And they knew. My delivery was all about, you've let this mob behind. You've let them down. That is not our style of performance. Now, I said it with a lot more F's in it and of course, and swear words, but the delivery was all about, you're letting this group behind us down. They've sacrificed us the Christmas Day, and we're not performing.
So, Phil, obviously, I've trained on Christmas Day. You don't do much. I get that. You have a little bit of a father side or a little circle or whatever, but it's just that I think it's that mindset of you being in. Yeah. Now, Brian said you didn't come in on Christmas Day. Did that ever affect you to think, what if?
True story, Scott. Go back to a guy that we've been talking about, Sam Allardyce, and I'm doing my apprenticeship in management, if you like, at Blackpool. Yeah. And Sam started me off on the ladder, as it were. And it was -9. I'm driving on the M55. It's Christmas Day morning. It's about 8:30. I'm in the car, not hands-free out like that in them days. So I picked the phone up. I said, what we're going to do today, Sam? I said, have you seen it's -9? What we're going to do? Train on the beach? And I can't remember, we were playing the following day. Anyway, long story short, he went, Brownie, he said, take him out. If you can get him out for a little jog and this, can you just get a little bit of a sweat on and send him back home? I said, whoa. I said, what about you? Oh, no, I said, I had a few to drink last night. I said, if I get in the car now, it'll be a disaster. He said, just get on with it and tell them what the arrangements are for the Boxing Day game. Yeah. That was the moment I thought, if I ever become manager, I will never bring my team in on Christmas Day morning. Now, that was driven by a manager who's been there, seen it and done it, and then thrown me under the bus to a certain extent. Right. Not that I couldn't handle it. It wasn't a case of that. It was just a case of I'm walking into a changing room with a group of players who don't want to be there, They want to be with their families and this, that, and the other. What benefit do you get from a little five-a-side or a little sweat on and this, that? I got what you said, but I thought I'll never do it. And I kid you not, Scott, if you go back to my record on Boxing Day, I've won a number of games. I've won a number of games. I haven't really lost a game on a Boxing Day fixture. And it's because I give them Christmas Day off and spend time with your families. But come in early enough, get a dab down, massage, whatever. Prepare your minds, and that gets you into game plan, you know.
Yeah. On that, you ask for reciprocation.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't really.
It's mad, don't it? Because I mean, like you say, I mean, I know you can't name the two people that let you down, but I mean, it still baffles me the fact that they're going to you play Man City away. Why would you sacrifice? I mean, people will say Christmas Day, though, Scott, but listen, you're a footballer. That's the busy time for footballers, isn't it, really? For me, I just can't get my head around that. Why you do something that would actually, just kind of upset the team in some respect. Yeah. Individually, it's bonkers.
I'll move on from where I was anyway, and I want to take you into this. So we've just mentioned the celebration. We've just mentioned obviously the halftime team talk. I want to know how you took it. Did you know it was happening? Like, how did you take it? Did you look at it and go, "You twat"? I guess you didn't say twat.
No. I honestly, I can't emphasize enough how it sort of it took a bit of pressure off me. You know, a lot of people had been talking about the halftime team talk, and I'd done presentations for the League Managers Association. Why did I do it? This, that, and the other. I've been asked by psychologists. You name it. I've been asked about it. And you could actually say it's almost a moment of madness, you know. But football gets you that way sometimes. But when we go to Man City a year later, and the guys have sat down and discussed it about the celebration. If we score a goal and it's a relative goal, you know, or relevant goal, and they discussed it at length by all accounts in the hotel. But that was the difference between the Man City game the year after and the Man City game on Boxing Day when I did the halftime team talk. Yeah. We hadn't stayed in a hotel overnight because we'd been with the families on Christmas Day and everybody. Yeah. We travelled across on the morning. You know, Manchester's only, an hour away, if that. So we stayed overnight in the hotel, and they had finished their evening meal and they went and played their cards and did what they did, and they all made reference to this. If somebody scores, we've got to do the halftime team talk. And I remember making a substitute, and Jimmy was getting on my nerves in this game. Jimmy was getting right on my nerves. He was spending too much time behind the two centre halves, getting the ball. His biggest pass ratio was probably with Boaz Mael, the goalkeeper. Yeah. He was getting the ball off the goalkeeper. And the modern day game's all about that at the moment. But so you can say Jimmy was probably ahead of the game. But I was wanting Jimmy to be more effective further up the field of play. So I made a change, and I pushed Jimmy into the number 10 role. As soon as you mentioned number 10 to Jimmy, I'll have some of that. You know, so, number 10. You don't say go and play with the striker or behind the number 10, Jimmy. Number 10. Next thing you know, he gets involved higher up the field of play. We look like a little bit more of a threat. We get the penalty, and Jimmy takes the penalty. Now, I think it was Richard Garcia that I've made the substitution with. So I'm now screaming at Garce to come across here. And you know, I wanted to get some information, tactical information, on to the field of play. Let's go 4-5-1. Let's take the point now. It was six minutes to go or whatever. You know, let's go 4-5-1. Forget about Jimmy playing the number 10 role. Come back in here, Jimmy, and make it. And if he didn't make the 3 in midfield or 5 in midfield, I was going to hook him off. So that's all I was trying to do. So I didn't see any of it. Truth be known, I didn't see any of it. Next thing you know, final whistle goes. I'm walking down the tunnel. Was Mark Hughes the manager? It was Mark Hughes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So shook his hand, walking down the tunnel. BBC's just to the left-hand side. Match of the day. Can we have a quick... and I always had a thing where Sam was concerned at Bolton. Sam used to say, cooling down period. Get away from the game. Get away from the change room. 30 minutes, switch off. Yeah. Gather your thoughts. Get the facts on the game, blah, blah, blah. So don't cool down. And they grabbed me straight away. And I went, we just want to talk to you about the celebration. So I went, what celebration? He said, Jimmy's celebration. Not say Jimmy's celebration. I hadn't seen it. They rewound it in front of me. I just walked away from them laughing me head off. Brilliant. Gets into the changing room. And then I'm watching it on a video behind the screen with the match analysis guy. And by this time, all the players had now traipsed into the changing room and high-fiving each other and this, that, and the other. And then they realised I was in the changing room. So they all sat down and they were quiet. And next thing you know, they hear me bellowing in laughter.
Brilliant.
Then realised, we've done okay. We've done okay. Now to do, we've done okay celebrate. We've done okay getting a point. It was a great point. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant.
It's the best way to take it. And that only adds to the camaraderie and the dressing room, doesn't it? So I want to move on to, as I mentioned before, we went on air, the tackle fight night. So you understand it. It's you've got to take a tackle off one, got to fight one, you've got to go on a night out one. And the three names I'm going to give you. It's a little bit up and down, I don't know how you're going to take this, but we've got John Parkin. Had to be in there. Had to be in there. We all know there's rumours.
He covers all three, John. He covers all three.
Then we've got Ian Ashby. And for the third one, I'm going to go with Michael Turner.
Oh, nice one. Ooh, that's an interesting. So it's a tackle?
Yep.
A fight and a night out.
The tackle's not a little shoulder barge off the ball. It's the worst one they've got in the tank.
1994, 2-foot tackle.
Oh, I can remember Ian Ashby. I remember as if it was yesterday. Ian Ashby's tackle on at Southend United, and we won the game. He got sent off, and we won the game 3-2. It was a cold Tuesday night, and Ashby was already in the bath, and I realised he'd done that tackle. This was right in the shoulder blades, 6 studs. Oh dear, proper Ian Ashby tackle. So a night out, first and foremost, would be John Parkin. Now that sounds like it's a criticism or it's a conflict of interest with regards to me and John. John was priceless. He was box office with some of the comments that he used to come out with. Yeah. And he could drink, he could entertain. He was different gravy, absolutely different gravy. So probably going out for a pint would be, or going out for a night out with John Parkin. John will probably find that's if he's ever on this podcast, a strange decision. A tackle, having just said that about Ian Ashby, I would probably take a tackle off Ash. No, would I? Yeah, I'd take a tackle off Ash. Off Ash. The reason why
you don't want to fight him.
No, yeah, you could say that. It's probably the reason why I think I was quicker than Ash, even though I was 49-year-old. I thought I was quicker than Ash, and I could probably get out the way of that.
That's brilliant. That's a great answer.
So then you've got, I suppose, a fight with Michael Turner. Michael was just a lovely lad.
You'd batter Michael Turner all day long.
Never really wore the number 5 like a number 5 should wear the number 5. But Michael would be the fight.
Michael Turner came across to me as the sort of guy that if he knocked you off the ball, he'd apologise afterwards.
Yes,
he came across just like such a gentleman. Like, sorry.
Come on in, Phil. John Parkin. Tell the story. Come on. What's this? Not hatred, but he's got a podcast out. He's very vocal about Phil Brown this, Phil Brown that. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not staring anything, but we still don't really know why. I mean, we understand that players and managers, you're not going to get on with everybody, and I get that. But
is it from the 2006-2007 season?
Yeah. The only thing I can say where John was concerned, having come from a changing room like Sam Allardyce had run, and obviously Scott knows what I'm talking about where this is concerned. I think the prediction or the preemption of what Sam was all about, the way he created this sort of mystique in a changing room that it was all technical stuff and we were ahead of the game and this, that, and the other. A lot of it was true, but a lot of it was down to the big fella. There was a lot of fear where that was concerned. And I think size sometimes carries its weight without sounding silly. Size sometimes carries its weight, and you don't have to pull your fists out because you're there, the size of bloody hellfire. And a lot of people fear it. Now, Sam had a career that boasted quite well, but he was a hard player to play against. He would put his head where boots were flying and stuff like that. Now, when I turned up at Hull City, Phil Parkinson was this up and coming manager that had a career ahead of him, but he was struggling. And still there.
Yeah, still there, mate.
Yeah, still there. Just gone on low battery. Phil Parkinson was, as I say, everybody has a duty of responsibility to be the best that they can possibly be for the manager. And I didn't see that in John. I didn't see the commitment. I saw ability without a shadow of a doubt. I saw a player who could play with both feet. I saw a player that could certainly use his weight and his height, but he would never really work a channel. He would never really chase lost causes. And I was probably, as a striker, I was all about that,
Yeah.
When you could afford to buy the quality in and put it in a 9 or a 10 or a 7 and an 11, them roles that they play in the front four, all well and good. But we had a career at Bolton Wanderers with Kevin Davies up front. And Kevin Davies was a battering ram. He was a leader of the line. He would work tirelessly. He would chase fullbacks, harry people. He would only get 10, 11 goals in a season. But the amount of goals that we got off him was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, I saw John as that type of striker, using his weight, using his size, using his stature, using his reputation a little bit more. But he seemed to be hell-bent on being the funny man and being the guy who drank more than anybody else and being the guy who didn't take any notice of anybody. He just had his own life, his own career. Right. And I thought he was wasting it. I really did. I thought he had a decent career, don't get me wrong, but I thought he could have played higher, longer. He went to Stoke City, didn't he? He had an opportunity. I honestly thought, even though he's had a decent career, half decent career, I thought he wasted a lot of the talent. Because I kid you not, he can say bad things about me, I can say bad things about him. But bottom line is, I respected what he had, but I didn't respect how he used it.
Yeah,
I didn't respect how he used it. So consequently, when I became the manager, we just slowly but surely started falling out because he's continuing to do the same things that he was doing under Phil Parkinson. I was thinking the first opportunity I get to move him on, I'm going to move him on. And as soon as I did move him on, the rest history. He doesn't like me. Yeah. It's not a case of I don't like him by any stretch of the imagination. One of the last games that I had as manager of Swindon Town was in the FA Cup, and John was playing up front for York City. And he did everything he possibly could to win that game because he was desperate to prove a point. And I was thinking,
of course,
why haven't you done that all your career? Because if you have done that all your career, you'd be a far wealthier guy. You'd be at a higher level all your career, and you wouldn't be this big lad that everybody laughs and says he can drink 20 pints of Guinness every night.
Yeah.
What's that all about? I mean, we've come in a full circle here from the first conversation that we've had. The game's moved on. John hasn't moved on with the game, but the game's moved on.
Yeah. I get that, though, because like you say, I mean, I can only go back what Gordon Strachan used to say to the young lads, and you kind of think he's having a go at you to start with, but when you mature a little bit and get a little bit older, you do. It might take 6-7 years, but you kind of go, you know what? Yeah. So John's obviously not took that on board, and he's kind of done that throughout his career with different managers. Because like you say, it's not just you that he's fallen out with. I think he's fallen out with a few over the years.
Scott, I go back to what we talked. It comes in, it swings a whole round in a circle here. When I said to you, if somebody had said to me at 19-year-old, you go through your career without any alcohol whatsoever, and what you would have achieved, and I don't know where I would have got to.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody might have put that into John, or it's already in John. John's gone, no, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to enjoy myself. And at the same time, I can still be the best player on the park, and I can still score the goal that wins a game of football, but I'm just going to do it my way. I respect that. Fair enough. Get on with it.
I do see that. Like you say, it's a tough one. Like you say, he was very, very gifted, wasn't he? And very strong. So hard to play against. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Good player.
Technically, he's brilliant. Yeah. It's fair. Such I was looking at it sometimes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And like you say, he's a good character. He really is. You can't really say anything bad about him because what I've seen of him, I'm seen him play superb. Really good.
I've never been one to hold grudges or...
No. Right, we'll do quick fire questions. Favourite player you managed at Hull City?
Just
Peroni.
I thought that was a strange look from you.
I thought it was a clue. I was like,
no,
let this one out.
No. The missus just put a beer in front of me. I'm fully talked now to you. The favourite player I managed. I've got to say it that Dean Windus has got to be up there.
Really?
And I'm only saying favourite because he was at that stage in his career where he was no longer the manager's nightmare. He was no longer trying to be the guy that was proving the point all the time and in your face and knocking at your door on a Monday morning. He would say it, he would subtly say it, but at the same time he accepted that he was 39 and he wasn't the nightmare that he had been for other managers. So I would have said I really enjoyed working with Dean and Nicky Barmby, to be fair, and Nicky Barmby.
Brilliant. The favourite place to eat and drink in Hull?
Medici's, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, North Ferriby. It was just up the road from the training, where the reserves played at North Ferriby United. I had a place in North Ferriby, and I used to go to Medici's too a couple of times a week.
Brilliant. Your best signing?
Every time I met a player, you're going on to signings. Every time I met a player, I had 100% success going to Medici.
Brilliant. There you go. So who's your best signing?
Best signing? Ooh. Great question. It has to be Fraser Campbell.
Yeah.
I think Fraser Campbell. He brought a new dimension to us as a strike force.
Yeah. Phil, what's the rumour that Michael Owen was a possibility to sign for Hull, or was it just a rumour?
It was a strong rumour. I had conversations with him, and it was a case of I don't think we were big enough for him, and that's not being disrespectful. I don't think we had been in the Premier League long enough, and I'd had a history of Sam Allardyce at Bolton Wanderers on a regular basis, doing miracle signings, JJ Kocher, Yuri Yokayev, Ivan Campo, Fernando Hierro, Vincent Candela, Stelios Giannakopoulos. Every time another player come in, this player had won a European title. He'd won, 7 times a winner of the Greek leagues, Stelios Giannakopoulos with Olympiacos, and then he comes and signs for Bolton Wanderers. So it was one of them where I don't think you should ever laugh at the possibility with agents about, and certainly the amount of money that's around. You should never laugh at the possibility that, by the way, we could be signing Michael Owen. That you've got to broach the subject and see when you start hitting everybody saying no, then it's not a possibility. But there was a few yeses. There was a few yeses leading up to it.
Oh, that's good.
So was there any that got away, Phil?
I think Bobby's the biggest one, Bobby Zamora. And he didn't get away because he didn't want to come. He really did want to come. I just had to make a big decision. It's probably the reason why I'm not saying now, not Hull City manager, but probably one of the main reasons why I didn't survive that year. If I'd have signed Bobby Zamora, I think I would have. I think Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink, albeit he did well at Celtic, the Premier League in England compared to Scotland, different level. And then Josie Altidore wasn't mature enough.
Oh, that's his back.
Josie,
battery had gone.
It's on its way. It's got about 1% now. Josie Altidore wasn't mature enough. If he had the maturity that he's got now, he would have been a player, but he wasn't mature enough.
Final question, Phil. What is the future holding for you?
I'm probably thinking about the director of football role now as a possibility. I've had a couple of conversations with teams, with owners, and it might be a time for that. It's I've done a fair stint in football and certainly in football management. Maybe to lend a little bit of advice to a younger manager without putting a threat on him or without posing a threat over him. Might be a possible way forward.
What's your lowest level then that you'd go to, or you're not bothered about levels?
I think you've got to consider it all. I think when you go to a lower level, you've got to understand that if you're at the Premier League, it's a project. If you're at a lower level, it's a project. But you've got to understand also that you've got to ask the right questions to find out how sincere and how serious they are about the project, and how much. It's not just about money; it's how far you're prepared to go. And if they're on the same page as me and vice versa, I'm not saying it's all about me by that.
No.
I'm just saying if they're on the same page, then I'll go anywhere.
Brilliant. So obviously I've got an academy, SG Pathway. So Phil, if you're out of work, mate, I'm happy to take you on board. Oh, hold on. I've got 10% battery now. Hold on. Oh, there you go. I've got 10% battery now.
That almost finished on a high, didn't it?
There you go. Matt, I'm assuming he doesn't want nothing to do with SG Pathway.
The smile was generous, mate. The smile was generous.
Send me the contract.
100%, mate. To be fair, you see now, mate, if you want it, look. No, honestly, Matt, you end it then, mate, 'cause it's been brilliant. It really has.
No, it's been a pleasure. Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board. I mean, we'd love to have you come back because I've still got a whiteboard full of stuff I'd like to ask you, obviously, battery permitting. But like I said, it's been a pleasure having you on board. For anybody who's tuned in, listened, thank you very much for that. If you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe. Everything's in the bio, so please check us out. Again, Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure. Scott, just as brilliant. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers,
Phil,
lads.
I really appreciate it. Top man, take care, mate.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers. See you later, Phil.